So you've decided to take some of my advice and start recording yourself in the training room or recording your competitions to analyze yourself and to possibly get some feedback about what you should be working on or to figure out maybe what you messed up on. Just like in jiu-jitsu, whenever you're training, if you don't have a focus about what you're trying to analyze in your training footage, then it can be a waste of time and you didn't do anything but just watch yourself either suck at jiu-jitsu or get kind of better. In this video, I'm going to give you guys a couple of key questions that you can ask yourself while watching the video to gain the most value and to pull away the key points from watching this video, so that way you guys can stop wasting your time and just watching the video over and over again and get the most out of it and get back to the mat training faster. How's it going, everybody? My name is Chasen Hill. I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. I've been teaching and training jiu-jitsu now for over 13 plus years. So if you guys like all things jiu-jitsu, this is probably a pretty good channel to check out. So make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button down below. I appreciate all the new fans and the support here lately. You guys are awesome and I'm happy to have you guys in. In this video, I want to break down this idea about analyzing your own training footage. I think this is becoming a lot more popular in the jiu-jitsu community. However, I still think it is not done enough. Usually the reason why students have a hesitation of videoing themselves in a training room environment is because there's kind of an old saying of you leave what happens in the training room there. We don't bring outside, we don't brag about it, we don't show about it. And I understand that perspective because most people are trying things that maybe they're not very good at. They're things that they want to improve on. So a lot of times what happens in training isn't like an actual reflection of a person's skill or of a person's ability. It's just what's going on in training. However, with that said, if you wanted to record your self-training and not distribute it to the world like some people on the internet, me, you can just keep it for yourself and build your own video library so that way you can reference things to work on in the future. What I want to get into are what are the main things that you guys can start filming and recording, and why should you record these things? The reason why you should record yourself, especially either in training, competition, or even in drilling, is because it offers an outside perspective that you would never be able to see in the midst of the scrum or in the midst of the drill, because you are worried about another individual trying to choke you and strangle you and trying to beat all of your techniques. You are not like a robot, so you're going to miss certain things that happen. Being able to have that on footage and capture it to either reference in the future or validate what you were doing was good, or to throw it off to somebody like a coach or another training partner to get their feedback is absolutely fantastic. Phones nowadays, and you can buy a tripod on Amazon. There's really no reason to have nothing recorded. The two main categories that I like to encourage students to think about filming is basically either in training or in competition. Start with in training first. So the two things that you can film in training is going to be training rounds and rolling, and also drills. So I do think recording drills can be very helpful, especially if you're new to the drill, you've not done the technique very much. It's a good way to look from the outside perspective. You can maybe see if you missed a grip here, if you missed a grip here, or even if you wanted to show your coach or a different training partner in the training round, that's going to be more to see about how you're doing against someone who's resisting, basically someone who's trying to stop you. Just like I've encouraged you guys all throughout this channel about whenever you show up to the training room, you guys need to have some kind of purpose and some kind of goal for whenever you're analyzing the training footage and watching. Let me give you guys my 5 questions that I give my students whenever they start analyzing their own video. And it does differ per training versus competition. Start with the training rounds first. First question you have to answer is, what are you trying to accomplish, or what was your main focus of that round? So let me give you an example. If you are trying to work in leg locks as one of your main focus, when you can say that you were trying to work leg locks, and if you actually tried your best to execute that game plan in the midst of training and try to capture leg locks, even if it failed, well, when you go back and watch the video, now you can see either the failed opportunities, but what's maybe even more important is the opportunities that you miss. So being able to see, oh man, I missed that potential opportunity. I never even saw that before. And then if you give the video to a coach to reference and he knows, oh, you were going for leg locks, they can look at it through a different filter, making sure that you actually write down what was your training focus. So that way, whenever you're watching the video, being able to pick apart and see if there was opportunities that you missed or that you didn't capitalize on is extremely beneficial and is going to expedite your learning potential. The next thing that I want you guys to make a note of is who is the training partner or what level of the training partner. I have a whole video talking about the different training partner levels that you guys can check out right here. But just as a quick review, we have level 1, level 2, and level 3. Basically, level 1 is people who are far less skilled than you. Level 2 is equal. And then level 3 is far above. If you guys are liking this information right now, leave me a comment down below about what you think about analyzing your own training footage. Are you for it? Are you against it? What are some metrics you like to use to watch for? Let me know down in the comments below. Whenever you put down the level and you go back and now watch the video, it's a good way to use a metric to determine if what you're working on is actually improving. Let me break that down. Because if you put that you're working on leg locks, if we just use that same example, and you were grappling against a level 1 opponent and you looked absolutely terrible executing those leg locks, then that's a pretty good sign that maybe you need to keep going down that path. But if it's a level 2 and you're able to catch them and you're starting to finish them, you're very happy with what's going on, then that's a good way to determine that you've reached a certain level of proficiency and maybe now it's time to move on to a next thing. Understanding what level you're actually trying to execute your focus on is extremely important. So you want to make that as a note, because when you come back and rewatch this, you might have forgot. The third thing is then you must at least call out 2 things that you did well. Now, jiu-jitsu is a very self-deprecating community and self-deprecating art. Basically, we like to make fun of each other. We like to say, oh, there's always more for us to learn. Oh, my guard passing is terrible and all of this stuff. Honestly, that's because we understand that there are these like peaks and valleys in jiu-jitsu and you can always get better. But at the end of the day, it's very important for you as an individual that's training and trying to get better that you can point out your wins or your successes, because jiu-jitsu is such a mental battle that you need to identify all of your successes that you've had, because once the boulder starts rolling, we need to keep going down that hill and keep the momentum going. Even if it's something like if you're a white belt that, man, I made it to the end of the round. I've never been able to do that before. Or I grappled against a level 2 opponent or a level 3 opponent and they only tapped me 1 time when they normally tap me 70 times. There are a lot of ways to find successes without necessarily looking at this I won or I lost mentality, but it's very important that you find your successes. As you become more skilled and you go from white to black belt, your successes will change. So obviously me being as a black belt, I'm not happy with the idea of just making it to the end of the round and surviving. Sometimes I am. If I've been on vacation for a while and I'm really out of shape, that might be the bare minimum I'm trying to reach. But it's more like that I was happy with the setup that I did on the arm lock that I'm working, or I made a cool new grip idea that I had never seen before. The successes will change and evolve as your career goes on. That brings me to my next point. You need to point out 2 losses outside of your focus. So what are 2 things you could have done better? Whether that was slow down, speed up, go for a certain sweep at a time that you maybe missed while watching the video. So there's a lot of ways to find losses. Now, we don't want to get too caught up on this because you can make like an infinity long list of losses that you had, or at least I know I can whenever I watch my own training footage. You just want to note down 2 or 3. Don't spend too much time on it and then write it down. The last thing I want you guys to answer is write a summary of your overall thoughts and feelings about the round. Did you feel it was very intense? Did you feel like you used a lot of energy? Did you feel like you didn't use very much? What are some things that you noticed that you need to work on, or some things that they were doing? They had strong grips. They had their legs were really strong. Whatever kind of things that you can put in there. Whenever you note this stuff down, what happens whenever you are learning things and the first time you're exposed to things and the information gets stuck into your brain, the way that you will view it right now and the first time that you see it or write that stuff down is only one perspective. If you let stuff marinate or like wine sit on your brain for 2 or 3 days and then come back and watch it with already those notes taken, I guarantee you either will pick up on things that you missed or you'll have a new outlook or perspective on things. You have slept since then and you have learned new things. I go back now and watch my training footage of me as like a blue belt and a purple belt. There's not much of it. I have some of it. I might release it one day. It's pretty ugly. Same thing with competition footage. footage. If you guys ever have watched a competition, I've been training for 13 years, so I used to watch some competition footage as a white belt or a blue belt, and then now I go back and watch it as a black belt, and I have a totally different perspective. The content hasn't changed, but the context of how your brain views the information has changed. That's why you can never see a technique enough times or see it over and over again. When you view it at one point and then view it at another point is going to be totally different, especially if it's weeks or months or even years apart. Now let's talk about the competition aspect and the things that you should be looking for. So the first thing about the competition aspect is, did you have a game plan? And I've talked a lot about this in a lot of other videos, but if your answer was no, there's the problem number one. You need to have some kind of a game plan before you show up to a competition. Let me be very clear. If you're a new white belt, I'm not saying you have to have it razor sharp, but you need to have some kind of an idea about what's the takedown you're going to try. What's the first submission attack you would try from the mount or side or guard, or just have a basic idea of what you're trying to accomplish. One of my favorite things is people will say, well, I just let my jiu-jitsu come to me. That's fantastic if you're a black belt. But if you're not a black belt and you only have a fine amount of jiu-jitsu already knowledge and information, that is very difficult to be able to do. Don't get paralysis by analysis by trying to have all these things rolling around in your head. Have 4 or 5 things that you do really well, hone it in, make that your game plan, and then try your best to execute. And the other reason for that is because even if your game plan completely failed and you absolutely suck, well, now you can go back to the drawing board and be like, oh, this is where my game plan failed. This is what I can do. And now you have a more specific guided focus for what you're trying to do, as opposed to if I'm just watching this video and you had no game plan, I'm going to be like, man, what was this guy doing? Why is nothing happening? Why is he not doing X, Y, and Z? Versus if you had a game plan and you were telling me that, now I could see what's going on and happening. I can see that, and then I can offer the appropriate advice to you about making it better. Write down the game plan, write down what it was, make notes of it. Question number 2, was it successfully implemented? Did you actually get to implement it? Yes or no? If you did, write down the parts that worked. The next thing is, what were some of your successes? So what are the things that you were successful in? Even if you got smoked the entire match, you still have some wins that happened in that moment. So make sure you note what those wins down. Then obviously write down your losses, the things that you could do better, the things you can improve in, and then the overall thoughts and feelings as well, again, for this one. So even though the questions are kind of similar, they are different in context. The biggest difference in questions is I don't ask you which training level it is in a competition, because most people are going against what I would call level 2, someone who is roughly the same skilled. Now I understand there's a little bit of difference if you're doing an open weight. From most perspectives of a tournament, it's usually going to be a level 2. So these are just some questions that if you sat down and you answered as many of the questions as you could before watching the video, and then watch the video and then made a quick note, it will 10x times the benefit of watching the video, and it doesn't take any extra time. Also, what this will do is if you're wanting outside feedback, like from your coach or a training partner, which I assume you would, is it provides context for the coach. Students will send me training footage either in person or online. They will send me a video, and then when I go to give them feedback or talk to them about it, I'll say, okay, well, tell me what you were thinking here, or tell me what you were thinking here, or why were you trying to accomplish that? Then I'm having to have this whole conversation, and I have a totally new outlook on the video than I did before having that context. Because if you say, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z, then now I can put myself in that perspective and then try to assist you in improving that. Or I could say, I don't know if you have enough information for that. I don't know if you have enough knowledge for that yet. I recommend maybe you go this path. So giving me some context will absolutely help you get better at jiu-jitsu, which is I think what we all want. What we want to avoid is just sitting down, watching this video and being like, man, I suck, or man, I did well, and pat yourself on the back and not get any benefit out of it. Yes, most people will see that, oh, I forgot to post my hand there. Oh, I forgot to post this, or man, I should have done this move here. But that's like the bare minimum that you should get. Don't set the bar of expectations so low. Raise the bar and get a little bit better. So hopefully you guys like this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. You can use this information to start crushing crushing your own video analysis. If you guys are liking this information, make sure you check out my free acceleration guide down below. Also, if you're wanting more direct help, like working with me in this videoing kind of stuff, make sure you fill out your application down below so that way we can get you started and I can start working with you today and get you going in the right path. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Keep training hard.